So what does this mean for industry? So what this means is industry has as Tara said, has a chance to take a leadership role. Customers are expressing their interest, investors are expressing their interest, and it's time for industry to accelerate what they're doing. One example of this, which is frequently surprising to people, is Walmart. Walmart serves 100 million customers weekly, and not only in the US, but also in Mexico and in Europe. So they're working deeply in their supply chain. They found that more than 90% of their carbon footprint came from their supply chain because that's the products that goes on Walmart shelves. So they've done everything from sustainable packaging and saving money as well as carbon, increasing the proportion of sustainable products like seafood and detergent. And you see some of the numbers here. And they're seeking to become 100% renewable energy oriented. So that's, and so with Walmart taking that role and with 60,000 suppliers, including China included, they are able to provide a leadership role, as other companies are doing today as well.
Okay, thank you. And just a quick note here on this slide, the non-governmental organizations are certainly taking note. When you hear people like Environmental Defense and the World Resources Institute talking about what organizations are doing, you'll find a lot of partnerships with these non-governmental organizations as well to make these things happen. And I'm sure that many of you heard about the Newsweek rankings of the largest 500 U.S. companies. This is the first time that Newsweek has done green rankings. And some people are debating about whether these rankings are perfect and providing perfect information. And I would agree that they probably are not perfect. But what they are is a great tool to inform consumers and investors about the companies that they might be interested in buying from or investing in. The other thing that it's doing is enabling comparison between companies and industries to be able to take a look at how are you doing compared to your competitor, and stimulating competition because, as usual, nobody wants to be at the bottom of the list. Lastly, it's also keeping sustainability top of mind, both for business leaders and consumers. Another thing that's really been driving further transparency are some of these things that have popped up. Good Guide delivered to your iPhone. I know we have a lot of dedicated iPhone users, 100,000 downloads of the iPhone app for Good Guide and millions of views. They rate 75,000 products. And what Amazon has found is that when people click through from Good Guide, they have conversion rates that are 5 to 10 times those of Amazon's norm. So there's really money to be had in the transparency that is intended to meet the demand that we talked about before. Consumers really want to buy these green products. And as Paul already mentioned, the Sustainability Index pioneered by Walmart. One interesting thing to note is that Walmart is partnering with its competitors like Kroger's and Target's and working together on this. So if somebody thinks that they can avoid the influence of it being a Walmart standalone effort, that they need to think again. This is really something that will be providing an opportunity for disruptive innovation while continuing to drive costs down. So we're going to start jumping in a little bit more detail into the first of our 4 topics, the first topic being cash in carbon. And there are a lot of carbon-intensive industries, and certainly when I think of carbon-intensive industries, American Airlines is right at the top of the list. They really are jumping ahead and trying to do something proactively. They've issued their first GRI Level 3 compliant sustainability report for a major U.S.-based carrier, and they've reported on a number of environmental, corporate citizenship, and other economic efforts. They're the first major passenger airline to join the Climate Leaders Program of the EPA, and they're committing to a 30% reduction in greenhouse gas intensity by 2025. They reported how many tons, metric tons of CO2e they released last year, and while it shows it was down 5% from previous year, they acknowledge that part of that might be to a slowdown in the economy, but they're also taking a look at other factors.
So there's a question here about GRI, just to answer that quickly. Thanks, Steve, for your question. GRI is called the Global Reporting Initiative. One of the leaders of it is an organization called CERES, C-E-R-E-S. And it's really a sort of a comprehensive documentation of the social, environmental, and other human indicators of a company. There are about 200 or so questions that they seek to find out from a company. The challenge with that is it can be a data-intensive exercise. What you'll find in some corporate responsibility reports is there'll be a specific page dedicated to the GRI as to how much they're communicating. The opportunity is for companies to use that as a starting list of the different indicators that they can look at and see how they map to their business.
All right. And some of the more detailed social responsibility or corporate responsibility reports will actually have an index in the back that refers to which of the GRI sections they're reporting on as well. So that's something you might want to take a look at if you're interested in reading a particular organization's responsibility report.
And just while we're on that topic, three of my favorite reports are the Eco-Imagination report by GE, which blends in a lot of business information. And GE is starting to blend in the Eco-Imagination information to their annual report. Procter & Gamble has a very well written and comprehensive report that focuses again on business goals, revenue. GE gets 10% of its revenue from Eco-Imagination. Procter & Gamble is seeking 20 to 30 billion from that from sustainability products. And then a third, which is really transparent, it's about 200 pages of business information, is Infosys, based in India, the global technology company. So I encourage you, if you want to see best practices in corporate reporting, those are three of them.
Great, thanks, and thanks for that question. Just a little bit more detail on what Americans doing, what I think they're doing well. One of the things that's really important here is they're certainly working with the manufacturers on composite materials to make the airplanes lighter. They're working to mimic shark skin to reduce sort of the airflow over the outside of the airplane, and working on more efficient engines as well as fuels. But I think one key thing that they're doing here is they're also engaging everyone on the front line in their organization. They've engaged employees to say, what ideas do you have? You're the ones walking the galley of the airplane every day, flying the plane, cleaning the plane. And what they found is they got a whole lot of suggestions through their Fuel Smart program from their employees. They started removing things that they deemed were unnecessary. It included maybe little slots for the razors in the bathroom and tray tables where they weren't needing to be used. The other thing they looked at is simply by taking excess potable water off of the airplanes, they were able to save 2.5 million gallons of fuel. And by switching out to lighter life vests, trading up to new ones, they were able to save another 760,000 gallons. So all of these efforts, some of which are detailed here, are totaling about $31 million per year in fuel cost savings. So you can see it's quite substantial, and a lot of these ideas came from the front line.
And yeah, just on the airline example, we look at a company like Federal Express or UPS. Some of that is from changing out their fleet, either their air fleet or their ground fleet. But a fair amount of the savings is just coming from different behaviors and employee ideas, like Tara said. So the challenge is not only investing to get a return on investment, but engaging your employees. Another question from the group is, are there any new triple bottom line metrics or reporting tools? I don't know if there's any new triple bottom line metrics. There's companies like DuPont, and Dow that are looking at things like, what's your shareholder value per pound of product? And that it's really a transformational metric in that as you seek to dematerialize your business, of how to either make products that are lighter or less volume, but to generate high margins from it, is one move. And Hewlett-Packard has talked about this as well. And the second is to move from products to services. So a company like Interface, which sells carpets and office furniture, is moving from selling those to renting or leasing those. And so they're in carpet services or office furniture services. So we will point out additional metrics as we work, as we go through this presentation, and we'll seek to go into deeper detail on your question from Kent.
Yeah, and just one other comment on that metrics here. For example, with American, one of the things that they look at is really their carbon intensity, which is impacted not only by all the things we already talked about, but also impacted by whether their planes are full or not. So if they have half-empty planes, it actually has a negative impact on their metric. So you really, when we're looking at these reports, need to understand what they're measuring and what that metric means, so that you know that you're measuring the right thing.